I still remember that electrifying moment as if it were a scene from a movie, the moment when, in the dim glow of a late afternoon, I pulled up in my brand new Ferrari. For years, my wife had scoffed at my modest earnings and insisted I was broke. In those first 100 heartbeats, her derisive laughter echoed in my ears as I stepped out of the gleaming car, a vivid symbol of success that shattered every negative assumption about me. That moment wasn't just a display of wealth, it was the culmination of relentless struggle, determination, and the transformation of my life. In that instant, every doubt, every whispered "you'll never make it," was silenced by the roar of my engine, and by the undeniable truth that I had finally arrived. The story began long before that fateful day. I had spent years scraping by, working tirelessly at a job that barely covered the bills. I remember the long nights, the endless hours of grinding in a cramped office cubicle, and the quiet, persistent belief that I was meant for something more. My wife, always quick with a smirk, would casually remark, "You're too broke to ever change your stars," dismissing my dreams as fantasies that were forever out of reach. I accepted her words, silently internalizing them as if they were a part of my reality. I lived day to day, clinging to the hope that one day hard work would rewrite the narrative of my life. But deep down, I knew I couldn't accept that fate forever. I began to immerse myself in learning, studying finance, attending seminars, and hustling on the side to build up a small savings. Every bit of extra work, every sacrifice, was fueled by a stubborn belief that I could rise above the limitations imposed on me. I had dreams of luxury, of freedom, of a life where I would never have to hear those condescending remarks again. I envisioned a future where I would drive a car that reflected the success I had worked so hard to achieve, a car that would command respect and silence the cynics once and for all. I started investing my spare time in understanding the intricacies of the market and gradually began to see a path forward. It wasn't an overnight miracle, it was a slow, painful journey of trial and error. There were setbacks, mistakes that cost me time and money, but each failure only strengthened my resolve. I found solace in the process of learning, and eventually, small wins began to accumulate. My savings grew, and with every incremental success, I dared to dream bigger. I envisioned a life where the words "broke" would be nothing more than a distant memory, replaced by the roar of success and the gleam of polished metal. Then came the day that changed everything. I had been meticulously working on my investments and had saved enough to take a bold step. I decided to invest in a Ferrari, an emblem of success that would not only transform my image but serve as a powerful statement of my journey. The decision wasn't made on a whim, it was the culmination of years of planning, sacrifice, and an unwavering belief that I deserved better. I visited the dealership, heart racing and palms sweating, as I signed the papers for the car that would become the symbol of my rebirth. That afternoon, as I pulled up to my wife's family gathering in the gleaming Ferrari, every eye in the room turned toward me. I could see her astonishment, mingled with disbelief. For a moment, the chatter in the room hushed as people absorbed the stark contrast between the man they had known and the reality before them. I parked with deliberate precision, and as I stepped out, the sunlight caught the sleek lines of the car, a visual declaration that I had transformed my life. There was a quiet confidence in my stride, an unspoken message that I was no longer defined by my past struggles or by her dismissive words. That moment marked the beginning of a new era. The same people who once ridiculed my financial limitations were now forced to reckon with the tangible proof of my success. In that crowded room, every whispered comment, every astonished glance, was a testament to the fact that my journey from struggle to triumph was complete. I felt a deep surge of vindication, not because I sought revenge, but because I had proven to myself that the limitations others tried to impose were nothing compared to my own potential. As the gathering continued, I mingled with family and friends, engaging in conversations that now carried a new tone of respect and curiosity. I shared insights about my journey, careful not to gloat, but to express the transformative power of perseverance. I listened to others recount their own challenges and, in doing so, realized that my experience was part of a larger tapestry of human resilience. The evening became a turning point, not just in the eyes of the gathering but in my own heart. I knew that from that day forward my life would never be the same. Even now, as I reflect on that day, I recognize that my purchase of the Ferrari was more than a mere display of wealth, it was a declaration of independence. I had taken control of my narrative, rewriting the script that once relegated me to mediocrity. That moment served as a catalyst for a profound internal transformation, a recognition that my self-worth was not determined by the opinions of others, but by the courage to chase my dreams relentlessly. I left that family gathering with a sense of quiet satisfaction, aware that I had, in a single bold move, silenced the doubters and reclaimed my dignity. Yet, even as I celebrated my personal triumph, a small part of me wondered about the future. Would my wife ever understand the magnitude of what I had achieved? Would she see that her dismissive words had inadvertently sparked a fire that now burned brighter than ever? These thoughts lingered as I drove home, the roar of the Ferrari's engine a constant reminder of the journey I had undertaken, a journey marked by heartache, resilience, and the unwavering pursuit of a dream. In the days that followed that unforgettable family gathering when I pulled up in my Ferrari, my life transformed into a relentless pursuit of proving not only to everyone else, but most importantly to myself, that I was worthy of every dream I once dared to imagine. Every morning I woke before the sun, lacing up my running shoes and pounding the pavement through quiet streets. With each mile, the roar of my footsteps replaced the echoes of laughter and dismissive whispers. Those early runs became my meditation, a time when I cleared my mind, recharged my spirit, and reaffirmed that my journey was only just beginning. I'd reflect on the vivid memory of that evening, the moment her family, with their high society airs, had reduced me to just her plus one, and the overwhelming pride I had felt as the sleek Ferrari rolled to a stop. That moment had become the spark that ignited a fierce determination to rewrite my narrative entirely. At home, my modest living space transformed into a creative war room. I cleared off my desk and arranged every document, every bank statement, every old scribbled note that once detailed my humble aspirations. I revisited every plan I'd ever made, plans for financial independence, for entrepreneurial ventures, and for a life unburdened by the sting of public humiliation. I pored over business journals, attended online seminars, and began mapping out a new vision with laser focus. Every detail was scrutinized, refined, and reimagined with an intensity that felt both cathartic and empowering. I recalled the sharp taste of betrayal when my wife had claimed I was broke, and I vowed that her doubts would be the fuel for my transformation. I started budgeting meticulously, investing wisely, and even setting aside funds to launch a passion project that had long simmered quietly in my mind. The workplace, once a dreary backdrop to my everyday routine, now became a battlefield of innovation. I volunteered for every challenging assignment, determined to push my limits and redefine what I was capable of. Late nights at the office were no longer burdensome, they were my proving ground. I spent hours crafting proposals, meticulously analyzing market trends, and pitching ideas that were both bold and visionary. I remember one particularly grueling week when a major project hit unexpected roadblocks. Instead of succumbing to frustration, I rallied my team, and we worked tirelessly, brainstorming creative solutions until we emerged with a plan that not only solved the issue but set a new standard for our department. That week, every minute of struggle was a triumph over the memories of humiliation. Every setback was rechanneled into a stepping stone toward excellence. My colleagues began to see me in a new light, a leader who wasn't defined by his past but by the relentless pursuit of a better future. Outside the confines of work, I embraced every opportunity for personal growth. I reconnected with passions long neglected. I dusted off my old guitar, rediscovered the joy of strumming familiar chords, and even found solace in writing again. I started a blog where I poured out my raw, unfiltered experiences. Every moment of despair, every spark of hope, and every breakthrough became part of a story that resonated with readers far beyond my immediate circle. The blog, unexpectedly, began to attract a modest following of people who saw in my journey a mirror of their own struggles and triumphs. Their encouraging comments and shared experiences provided me with a sense of belonging, affirming that even in the throes of heartbreak, we are capable of reinventing ourselves and finding new meaning in our lives. I also took to attending social events with a new perspective. I frequented networking mixers and community gatherings, not as a man seeking validation, but as someone eager to share his journey and learn from others. Conversations flowed easily, and I found that many people had, at some point, been underestimated or dismissed. Their stories of resilience and quiet triumph filled me with a renewed sense of purpose. I began to see that the very dismissal that had once stung so deeply was not a measure of my worth. It was a challenge to rise above the narrow confines of other people's expectations. Amid these endeavors, I sought therapy to help untangle the complex emotions that had arisen after that fateful evening. In the quiet sanctuary of my therapist's office, I explored the depths of my anger, sadness, and eventual determination. I learned that healing is not about erasing the past but about transforming it into wisdom. I discovered that forgiveness, true forgiveness, was not about absolving someone of their wrongs, but about liberating myself from the chains of resentment. Slowly, I began to see that the pain I had endured was not a sign of weakness but evidence of my capacity to endure and evolve. With each session, I grew more confident in my own worth, and I began to embrace a future that was not tainted by the bitterness of betrayal. One evening, after a long day filled with the exhilaration of new business breakthroughs and the quiet joy of personal reinvention, I attended a local entrepreneur meetup. The room was alive with energy and shared ambition, and as I listened to others recount their struggles and successes, I felt an overwhelming sense of solidarity. I shared snippets of my journey, the sting of being called broke by my own wife, the crushing embarrassment of being introduced as just her plus one at a family dinner, and the way I had turned those moments into the fuel for my transformation. I could see nods of understanding, hear murmurs of empathy, and even catch glimpses of gratitude in the eyes of those who had faced similar adversities. In that gathering, I realized that my journey was not unique. It was a universal testament to the power of resilience and self-belief. We were all, in one way or another, forging new futures from the remnants of shattered dreams. As I continued to navigate the labyrinth of personal and professional challenges, I began to notice tangible signs of change. My financial stability improved markedly as I took calculated risks and diversified my investments. The business ventures I had once only dared to dream about began to materialize into solid opportunities. I watched, sometimes in awe, as the numbers in my portfolio steadily climbed, a silent, potent reminder that my hard work was paying off. Every positive update from my bank, every congratulatory email from a business partner, was like a salve to the wounds inflicted by years of dismissive sneers. I also cultivated a deeper connection with my inner self. I dedicated long afternoons to meditation and reflective walks, during which I allowed myself to feel every emotion fully, without judgment, without shame. I learned to embrace the solitude, to see it as an ally in my quest for clarity rather than a reminder of what I had lost. The quiet moments became the bedrock of my new identity, a time when I could reconstruct my self-worth and realign my priorities. I discovered that the most important relationship I would ever have was with myself, and that nurturing that bond was the key to true, lasting happiness. In these moments of solitude, I started to plan for the future with renewed vigor. I outlined ambitious goals for both my career and personal life, setting milestones that were both challenging and deeply fulfilling. I began exploring new ventures, considering opportunities that would allow me to leverage my newfound confidence and financial acumen. I envisioned a life where I was not only successful but also happy, a life where every decision was a testament to the resilience that had carried me through the darkest days. I saw potential in every challenge, and I knew that my past, with all its pain and regret, was the very thing that had prepared me for this moment of rebirth. One crisp evening, as the autumn leaves danced outside my window, I attended a high-profile industry event where I had the opportunity to pitch my latest venture to a panel of seasoned investors. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation and the buzz of ambitious minds colliding. I stepped onto the stage with a calm, measured confidence that belied the tumult of emotions beneath. I shared my journey, every setback, every moment of doubt, every small victory that had led me to that point, and I explained how I had turned betrayal into a stepping stone for innovation. The presentation was a catharsis, a public declaration that I was more than the sum of my past hurts. The applause that followed was thunderous, and in that moment, I felt not just vindicated but truly alive. I had proven that my vision was unstoppable and that the hardships I had endured were the building blocks of a future filled with promise. The more I succeeded in the professional realm, the more I began to appreciate the transformation on a personal level. I reconnected with old friends and built new, meaningful relationships that were rooted in authenticity and mutual support. I learned that while the pain of betrayal might never completely vanish, it could be transformed into a source of strength, a reminder that every hardship is a catalyst for growth. I started exploring creative pursuits that nurtured my soul, painting, writing poetry, and even experimenting with music. These outlets became vital expressions of my journey, allowing me to translate the raw emotions of my past into beautiful, tangible expressions of resilience. I was discovering that the process of healing was multifaceted, one that involved not just intellectual and financial growth, but also a deep, soulful reconnection with who I was meant to be. As the months turned into a year, I began to see the mosaic of my transformation with clarity. Every running trail, every boardroom victory, every quiet conversation with a friend had contributed to a new narrative, a narrative where I was the architect of my own destiny. My financial endeavors were flourishing, my business ventures were gaining traction, and my personal growth was marked by a profound sense of inner peace and self-assurance. I began to truly understand that the scars of betrayal, while permanent, did not define my future. They simply marked the journey that had shaped me into a stronger, more resilient person. I found that the more I invested in myself, the more the world around me began to change. People who had once dismissed me now looked at me with newfound respect and curiosity. Opportunities that I had once thought were out of reach began to materialize. Invitations to networking events, mentorship offers from industry leaders, and even unexpected messages from acquaintances, all served as affirmations that my transformation was complete. I was no longer a victim of past rejection. I had evolved into a confident, self-assured individual who was ready to embrace whatever the future held. Yet, amid all these triumphs, I never lost sight of the journey itself, the long, arduous road that had taken me from the depths of despair to the heights of self-reclamation. I often found myself revisiting my journal, reading the raw, unedited entries that chronicled every tear, every pang of pain, and every moment of quiet determination. Those pages were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even when everything seems lost, there is always a spark of hope waiting to be fanned into a blazing fire. I began to see that my story was not just about overcoming betrayal. It was about the transformative power of self-belief and the courage to build a future that is unapologetically your own. By the time I reached this stage, I was planning for the future with a confidence that was both exhilarating and humbling. I set new, ambitious goals for myself and my ventures, expanding my business, exploring creative projects, and even considering avenues for personal growth that I had never before dared to imagine. I envisioned a life where every day was a testament to the fact that I had reclaimed my worth and built a legacy from the ground up. I realized that while the pain of the past had once threatened to define me, it had instead become the fuel for a future filled with endless possibilities. In those final months of this phase, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for every trial and every triumph that had led me to this point. I had turned every setback into a lesson, every hurtful comment into a challenge to prove my resilience, and every moment of rejection into an opportunity for growth. I had learned that the true measure of a person is not how others perceive you, but how you rise in the face of adversity. The journey had been long and painful, but it had also been the most transformative period of my life, a period where I discovered that I was capable of far more than I had ever imagined. As I stand now, looking forward to the next chapter of my life, I am filled with a quiet, unshakable hope. The scars of betrayal, though they remain, no longer cast a shadow over my future. Instead, they serve as a powerful reminder of the strength that lies within us all, a reminder that even when life seems to have turned its back on you, you have the power to rise, to reinvent, and to create something extraordinary out of the ashes of your past. My journey from heartbreak to empowerment has been marked by moments of quiet defiance, relentless perseverance, and a deep, abiding belief that I am worthy of a life filled with joy, success, and love. This is my story, a story of transformation, of reclaiming my self-worth, and of building a future that is defined not by the betrayals of yesterday, but by the hope and promise of tomorrow. It is a journey that has taught me that every ending is simply the beginning of a new chapter, and that true strength comes from within. As I move forward, I carry with me the lessons of every painful moment, the victories of every small success, and the unyielding belief that my destiny is mine to shape. And with that conviction, I step boldly into the future, ready to embrace all the possibilities that lie ahead, knowing that I have the power to turn every setback into a stepping stone toward a life of fulfillment and unending promise.